Hello everybody out there watching on YouTube, and welcome to race number 32 / chase race number 6 of Season 3 NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I'm Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the GEICO 500 here at Talladega Superspeedway, as we are getting set for 29 laps of racing here at this 2.66 mile restrictor plate racetrack. Now, before we look at the starting lineup, we have to take a look at the chase standings coming into the race today. So after last week's race at Sawmill, Dylan Jacobs and Matt McIntyre are both tied for the points lead going into the race today. Third, 5 points behind, is Paul Minnick. 11 points behind is Austin LaPlante. 17 points behind Joshua Sekuli. 24 points behind Benjamin Miles. 27 points behind Charles Sanford. 31 points behind James Qualls. 56 points behind David Rivera. 58 points behind Chris Dollarton. 83 points behind Rafael LeDuc. And 85 points behind is James McLeod. Still time for some of those back runners in the chase to try and get some momentum going forward, because after today, 4 races left in the season and in the chase. But let's take a look at the starting lineup. Starting in the last row is Matt McIntyre and Jessica Shelton. Top 10, Zach Flickinger is on the pole for today. Starting next to him is Charles Jackson. Row 2 is 2 chasers, Austin LaPlante and Rafael LeDuc. Row 3, Dylan Jacobs, Dorian Facepuncher. Row 4, Dylan Thoreau, Matt Haas. And then row 5, more chasers, James McLeod and Joshua Sekuli. So we got 5 chasers starting in the top 10. Interesting lineup there. But let's go ahead and get the command to fire engines for the GEICO 500 at Talladega.
Drivers, start your engines!
Cars rolling out on the racetrack for their one pace lap around here. Now, this is a slightly different version of Talladega than what we have used the past couple of seasons. It does look very similar to the 2006 Talladega, but this is actually the revamped 2007 version. It still looks very much like the 2006 track with the repave, except it is a little bit lighter, but hopefully that will create for some better racing. And I have done some tests here, and I have to say, I think this race will be a lot better than the race we had back in the beginning of the season. We're still going to do some more testing for the future of this racetrack after the season is over. In fact, a lot of tracks are going to go through some testing. But yes, Zach Flickinger, who has been the dominant rookie all season long, he has qualified for every single race back when it was in the first 5 race rule, and he's been staying in the top 30 in points ever since that point of the season. Hasn't really caught a big break after the halfway point of the season. During the halfway point, he was up around the top 15 in the point standings, and he's kind of faltered a little bit. Maybe today will be redemption for him, and hopes of getting momentum going into next season, where he will be a part of a different team. Since next season, DJ Curtis will be taking over that number 4 car. But the pace car has pulled in the pit road, and you all know what time it is. It's time to boogity 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 go racing. The big one is struck here on lap number 1, and quite a few chasers were involved in that mess. I saw Rafael Leduc get involved, David Rivera with huge damage, Matt McIntyre I think got very minimal, if any. Still looking around for everyone else that was involved. There's Sekuli, Shelton was in it, Matthews was involved, Jackson I think got a piece of it as well. Leduc, all I saw him get was the outside wall, but he's still going, so I don't think he's going to be off the pace. Maybe a tad, but you never know. Tim Fiegel with damage. Dougie Shears with big-time front-end damage on his car. And Dylan Jacobs, one of the 2 points leaders, led at the line, and it looks like some cars are going to come in the pit road for some gas and tires, but the leaders are going to stay out. So Dylan Jacobs is your leader. Let's go ahead and take a look at the replay of what brought the caution out for the first time today here at Talladega. Well, this looked like a 4-wide attempt gone wrong. Joshua Sekuli hooks Rafael Leduc in the left rear, and then up into Charles Jackson, down in the Dorian face puncher. And then there you see all the chaos, and look at the air that the 00 got. Now, it looked like as if this was going to be a minimal accident, but then Johnny Gardner and Matt Haas get into it with each other, and that causes a big stack up from behind, and look at all the cars that get involved in some way, shape, or form. Galligan was in it, and I didn't even know he was involved. Same with James Shelley. DJ Curtis was in it. Yeah, Matt McIntyre did get a piece of it. Zorline was in it. Dollarton, another chaser, got a slight piece of it as well. But yeah, the initial contact was between the 99 and the 79, but let's look at the aftermath with the 7 and the 77. Like, when they were trying to avoid, yeah, right there, just some contact between the 7 and the 77 when they were trying to get around, and they get sideways, and it completely blocks the racetrack. Dylan Young was caught up in it as well. Trent Dunham even was in it. Paul Minnick, another chaser that I forgot about, he was involved in this as well, but it looked like slight buckle. I think he'll still continue, but I don't think he's going to be able to try to go for the win. Quite a lot of guys I think are going to be off the pace, so it's really going to shake up this field big time and change the complexity of this race. But let's go ahead and take you to the restart here in the GEICO 500 at Talladega. Well, after that big one, we got 7 cars done for today, and they include Ashlyn Boyd, Joshua Sekuli, Kyle Matthews, Matt Haas, David Rivera, Trent Dunham, and Johnny Gardner. So we got 35 cars left on track, but I think a few of them are going to be off the pace. But here's the rundown of the field when we get back to racing. Dylan Jacobs, pretty much a majority of the field stayed out, and a few cars came into pit road. But Dylan Jacobs is your leader. Second is Dylan Thoreau. Third is James McLeod. Fourth, Zach Flickinger. Fifth, Austin LaPlante. Sixth is Peachy London. Seventh, Emmanuel Hartnett. Eighth is... trying to double check who that is. That's Phil Parker. That's Phil Parker in 8th. 9th, Benjamin Miles, and then 10th, Preston Plord. 11th is Carson Gum. 12th, Charles Sanford. 13th, Chris Michaels. 14th, Kyle Keith. 15th, Dylan Poteet. 16th, Jay Jefferson. 17th, James Shelley. 18th, James Qualls. 19th, Mark Lane. 20th, is Dougie Shears, but I fully expect him to drop to the back. 21st, Seth Cole. 22nd, Sean Galligan. 23rd, Jessica Shelton. 24th, PJ Williams. 25th, Jonathan Zorline. 26th is DJ Curtis. 27th, Charles Jackson. 28th, Tim Fiegel. 29th, William Brock. 30th, Rafael LeDuc, and it looks like they did repair the right side of his car, so if he can get through these slower cars pretty quickly, he could get back up into the mix. 31st, Chris Dollarton. 32nd, Matt McIntyre. 33rd, Paul Minnick. 34th, Dorian Facepuncher, and then 35th, Dylan Young. And some of these guys in the back are still trying to get bunched up in time, but I think they will get bunched up in time, so no worries there. Pace car in the pit road, and we are getting ready to get back underway, and it is 24 to go here at the line. Still got a long race to go. I'm actually going to go back here and watch the back of the field to see how some of the cars that are up to speed in the back, see how they get through the slower cars, if they can get around the slower cars in order to get themselves up here with the leaders. And so far, it seems to be only Dougie Shears and Jessica Shelton that are holding up a couple of the cars. Tim Fiegel is starting to slip to the back a little bit. So it's like as soon as these guys get around the 83 and the 02, they should be okay, but they have lost the main pack a little bit, so they've got a lot of work ahead of them. Back up here at the front, however, Dylan Jacobs still hanging on to the spot right now. Flickinger up to third, and now he's going to try and find a way around Dylan Thoreau for the second position. Look at Phil Parker in that 12 car. He's doing very well right now. Next season, it will be Benjamin Miles taking over that ride. The 55, however, will be taken over by newcomer Shane Lake, who I have seen race in the NNSCRA Hershey's Cup Series, and he has some talent. We'll see if he can bring that over to this series next season in that number 55. But right now, we've got quite a few chasers up here in the top 10 right now. Dylan Jacobs, your leader. Now Benjamin Miles has got a run underneath for second. Austin LaPlante is up here. I see James McLeod, and even Charles Sanford is starting to get up here into the mix as well. James Quall's kind of lurking back there with Kyle Keith, and that is Seth Cole, kind of working with them and watching those guys ahead of him race so that way they can maybe reel in the rest of that pack. Mark Lane kind of slipped back a little bit, same with Chris Michaels, and then everybody else got pretty much lost because of the slower cars. That or they are off the pace, and I do think these guys back here are all off the pace in some way, shape, or form. But back up here, ever since the drop of the green flag and when they took the caution, Dylan Jacobs has been the guy up here at the front all day. But now McLeod, who is in desperate need of a good finish, he needs to finish well and hope the guys ahead of him in points slip back a good ways in order for him to get back into the championship hunt. Because he comes in 85 points behind both Dylan Jacobs and Matt McIntyre. Right now, he would get a big edge over Matt McIntyre since he is back in 22nd. But Dylan Jacobs, he needs to get around him and hope that the 78 falls to the back. But look at Emmanuel Hartnett in that number 20 team, who pulled off one of the greatest feats of fuel mileage wins I have ever seen in the history of this channel last week at Sawmill. And how ironic, the guy ahead of him is a guy that he beat out to win at Sawmill, Dylan Jacobs. But look at Dylan Poteet. Poteet, don't discount that 31 team. They've had good cars, they just have not been able to pull off much this season. But he definitely is looking to try and finish Season 3 on a high note and hope Season 4 turns out better for that team. Same with Pichu London. Pichu London's coming back next season in the number 21. 2 wins, but unfortunately, or actually maybe only one win. It was 1 or 2 wins that the 21 has had this season. But unfortunately slipped way back into point standings and couldn't make something work to get into the chase. But he will be back next season, and he was going to hope that he can get some momentum here at the end of this season to get more momentum going towards next season. Phil Parker was working in a tandem with Dylan Poteet, but decides to pull out in line. But look at Seth Cole. Seth Cole, he was with James Qualls and Kyle Keith a little bit ago in the very back of the pack like 3 laps ago. And now he's up here in 4th right now. But look at Dylan Thoreau trying to figure out a way around his teammate, Emmanuel Hartnett. But next season, that driver right there in that 11, Dylan Jacobs, he's going to be moving to the number 6 for Roush next season. So we'll see how he will perform there. And right now, with help from Seth Cole and Phil Parker, he gets back up to 2nd. And actually, 3 of the 4 Joe Gibbs cars in the field are up here in the top 10. You got Dylan Thoreau up here, and then Hartnett and Carson Gum battling for position. The only good Joe Gibbs car that's not up here, if we can find him, there he is, P.J. Williams, and that's because he sustained damage in the big one, as too did a lot of these other drivers here. But you can tell Kyle Keith and James Qualls are just hoping that the guys ahead of them kind of spread out a little bit and they can catch, say, Preston Plord and Charles Sanford and somehow try and work together to get back up here into the main pack to race it out. But Dylan Jacobs, he's just been tough to pass. Nobody's been able to get a run on him, at least not yet. And also you got to wonder, when will the drivers have to come in the pit road to get the gas and tires to make it the rest of the way? Because we are a couple laps away from halfway here at Talladega. Zach Flickinger with a big push from behind by Carson Gum. But they have caught a few. They're about to catch a few slower cars. Dylan Young, Chris Dollerton, Dorian Facepuncher, Dougie Shears. This could be really helpful for the guys who are by themselves right now. Charles Sanford, Preston Plord, Kyle Keith, and James Qualls. This could be a huge boost for them to get up there to the leaders. That is if these cars up ahead of them force the issue. And ironically, 3 of these 4 are all from Young Motorsports. But now they have caught them, so now we're going to see what's going to happen. Dylan Jacobs tried to go up high, but couldn't make it work, and Carson Gum's got a huge run up there. So Carson Gum's going to get the advantage, and he's going to go on by. First major lead change of the day. Carson Gum, look at him go! Look at the horsepower, and then again, that's because these cars that are slow are holding up the field. Let's check on everybody else that was missing from back here. Sanford still not quite up there yet. Neither is the 70, the 42, and the 40, but they are catching the 03. So if they can get up to the 03 and hope that these slower cars continue to mess with the lead lap cars, the leaders up here, they could manage to get themselves back up here into the pack, but it's going to be a tough task, as now this big pack has just gotten separated a little bit. And Carson Gum's slow because he got caught, because he was up there all by himself, and now Dylan Jacobs goes back to the lead. Dylan Thoreau going to stick with him, however. 3 wide for 3rd. Emmanuel Hart now with a run underneath Carson Gum and Seth Cole. And I thought it was going to be 4 wide. Oh, but pit stops. There we go. Our first major pit stops under green today are happening right now. Now these 4, the 42, the 40, the 03, and the 70, ironically, teammates of one another. Kyle Keith, Preston Plord, teammates from Ganassi, the 70 and the 03 Retro Racing Enterprise teammates. So if they could stay together, they could make something work, but I don't know. I'm thinking they have to hope for a quick caution to come out before they can even try and get themselves up here. Rafael LeDuc, PJ Williams pulling out in the pit road. Dylan Jacobs going to continue to stay out. Dylan Thoreau, James McLeod, Phil Parker, among others, are coming in the pit road now. James Quall's going to stay out. Dylan Jacobs proven to show his dominance here at Talladega. In fact, the last win he had this season went back to Daytona, back at the Pepsi 400 or the Coke Zero 400. Dylan Jacobs won there, and he didn't get a chance to really show much at the two Armory Digital races we had, but right now he's showing his dominance as a restrictor plate racer right now as he's running up here at the front. But now he's pulling in the pit road along with Austin LaPlante and James Shelley. They're coming in. Let's see about Qualls, because I think he's the last one. No, he's going to stay out. The 70 car is going to stay out for an extra lap. The one thing that a lot of the drivers that are in pit road or going into pit road right now are hoping doesn't happen is a caution coming out, so that way they can get cycled back around properly and we don't get another major scoring error like we have seen time and time again at numerous different racetracks. There's Kyle Keith with Chris Dollarton right now. Dollarton being one of the slower cars. But let's see if Qualls is coming in the pit road this time, and he is coming in. Then again, some of those guys like Qualls pitted under the first caution, so they had a bit of a cushion to stay out longer. Same with the 41 and the 44. Mark Lane and Sean Galgan respectively both come in. So I think those are the last three that needed to pit, and now they're coming in for their final stops. But I will be interested to see who's going to get cycled around as the leader. Could it be the 78 or will it be the 70? I'm thinking it's going to be the 78 because he's easily going to go on by the 70. So, and there in fact we have it. So the field has now cycled around after those pit stops, and Dylan Jacobs goes back to the point. Second is Austin LaPlante. Third is James Shelley. Fourth, James McLeod. Fifth is Phil Parker. And sixth, I think, is going to be right now Carson Gum. Eighth, or actually seventh, excuse me, will be Jay Jefferson. Eighth will be Dylan Poteet. Ninth, Seth Cole. 10th right now would be Dylan Thoreau. Then 11th, Emmanuel Hartnett. The field is going to be a bit confusing to figure out because you got lap cars in between. But right up here, top three drivers are chasers. Dylan Jacobs, James McLeod, and Austin LaPlante. But they are getting ready to catch another slow car in Jessica Shelton, who is running in 27th. And she's going to let the bottom lane go. She's going to stay in the middle to let both the high and low lanes go on by. But now Carson Gum's going to slingshot to the outside to go on through. But now this pack's starting to reform just a little bit. Carson Gum now finds himself up here in the mix. Poteet, Parker, Jefferson, Seth Cole, and Dylan Thoreau are starting to reel in there as well. But now the rest of the guys who are outside the top 10 are hoping to get bunched together so they can work in a draft to catch back up to the top 10. 8 laps to go here at the line, and Dylan Jacobs, he's just been very, very difficult to pass. The only time he's been passed on the racetrack was when they caught slower cars, and Carson Gum led a lap, and then James Qualls led a lap for staying out. But now another lead change. Carson Gum's now got a run, and he takes the top spot. Dylan Jacobs now starting to feel a bit vulnerable because now he got forced to the outside, And now drivers are starting to zip past him. And how about an impressive run for rookie Jay Jefferson? He has had a very, very frustrating rookie season. He is definitely looking to get a bright spot to close out Season 3, because next season he's going to be moving to the 87 for Furniture Row Racing. And right now, he's up here in the lead. James McLeod, like I said, he needs to get a good run and hopes that the two drivers ahead of him, or most drivers ahead of him in points, finish well behind so he can gain a bunch of spots. But Dylan Jacobs still up here in the mix, but McLeod would gain quite a few points, but I don't think it will be enough to really cause a big spike in the points. But look at Seth Cole in the 98. He's been running pretty strong all day long. He finds himself up here in the second position. Dylan Jacobs' dominant car today, he's still within reach, running right now third. And then Carson Gum trying to look for a win, another win this season. He's up here in the top 5 and 4. Phil Parker running very strong in the 5th spot. Poteet running well as well. Same with LaPlante, and LaPlante is one of those guys within striking distance of the points lead. Right now he would lose quite a few points, but he'd still be close within. James McLeod still hanging on to the top spot right now. Dylan Jacobs moves back up to second with help from Phil Parker. 5 to go here at the line, but they are now catching more slower cars, and next up is going to be Jonathan Zorling, and then they're going to probably catch 2 more before the end of the race, Chris Dollarton and Dougie Shears before the end of the race. So this could be big. Wow, look at the slingshot moves that everyone's making, though Carson getting held up, same with Poteet. Bottom lane's getting held up by the 88, so that might have just cost them a shot at the win, but Dylan Jacobs goes back up to the top with help from future teammate Jay Jefferson. But they are going to catch 2 more slower cars, Dollarton and Shears. But we got to fight for the lead as Jay Jefferson pulls out to go underneath. Oh, very close. They split the 2 cars, both lanes, outside and inside, but the outside lane got the bigger run because the 5 had to back out of the throttle just a tad just to move down low. So Dylan Jacobs keeps the lead for now with help from James McLeod. But now the 78's going to go down to the bottom, try and block. But McLeod still keeping pace on the outside. But you're going to see right here the bottom lane kind of kick in a little bit. Then again, because the 78's starting to get some help from the 5. Although the 51 got a bigger run off the corner, and that's because the 5 went with the 51. Draft is definitely key here at Talladega, especially here in the closing stages, and McLeod retakes the spot. And now Carson Gum's got to run underneath the 78 for the 3rd spot. The 78's stuck on the outside lane, and he only has 1 car to help him right now, but now he's by himself. 2.5 laps to go here in Talladega. James McLeod trying to go for his 2nd win this season. His first win came back at Darlington in the Chase Cutoff race. He's looking to get his first plate race win of his Marble Studios Cup career. Carson Gum went for a big move and couldn't quite make it work, but he's still up here. 2 laps to go here in the GEICO 500. Dylan Jacobs fell all the way near to the end of the pack, but he's got Dylan Thoreau behind him, and they are catching Rafael Leduc, who is another slower car, but they're all going to split him. Oh, contact! But they keep it together. That was a close call, but look at the run Dylan Jacobs is starting to get. He is starting to reel in the top 4, so he's trying to get himself back up here, but McLeod, he's going to have to block as much as he can. Carson Gum going to go to the bottom, try to get 2nd. Coming to take the white flag. White flag is displaying. 1 to go for James McLeod. But it's still anybody who's up here in the top 5. It's anybody's game. And they may have to deal with another slower car, Dylan Young, before the end. That could be big, depending on what happens. Right now, Carson going to stay behind the 51 for the time being. But they are rapidly catching the 2, and he could cause a problem. Let's watch. Oh, the 51 going to go to the outside. I think that might have just sealed the deal. That might have just sealed the deal, and indeed it does. He's got too big of a gap now. Too big of a gap now. So it's basically all the 51. Checkered flag waving. James McLeod gets his second career win. He wins the GEICO 500 at Talladega. Great job to finally get that restrictor plate win and get some momentum going into next week and going forward in the chase. Still got a lot of work to do, but he makes a good first step here today, winning here at Talladega. Congratulations to the 51. But let's look at the rest of the field as they finished. After they had caught the 2 of Dylan Young, the gap got really big, and so McLeod won by over a second over Carson Gum. Carson Gum still a great run in the second position. No way to feel ashamed there. Dylan Poteet, really solid finish in third. And then Jay Jefferson, perhaps his best finish of the season to my knowledge, comes out fourth and the highest finishing rookie. And then one of the points leaders, Dylan Jacobs, great run, dominant car, but still gets a great run in fifth. I fully expect him to take the points lead by himself now. Dylan Thoreau with a great run in the sixth position. Phil Parker, solid run in the seventh spot. Austin LaPlante with a great run in eighth. Finishing out in ninth was Seth Colin, and rounding out the top 10 was James Shelley. Rest of the top 20 was Benjamin Miles, Zach Flickinger, Pichu London, Emmanuel Hartnett, Preston Plord, James Qualls, Kyle Keith, Charles Sanford, Chris Michaels, and Mark Lane. Rest of the lead lap cars were William Brock, DJ Curtis, Charles Jackson, Matt McIntyre, Sean Galligan. Everybody else that finished were a lap or more down, and they were Jonathan Zorline, PJ Williams, Paul Minnick, Tim Fiegel, Jessica Shelton, Dorian Facepuncher, Dylan Young, Rafael Leduc, Chris Dollarton, and Dougie Shears. Everyone else was out of the race after the big one on lap 1, and they were Ashwin Boyd, Joshua Sekuli, Kyle Matthews, Matt Haas, David Rivera, Trent Dunham, and Johnny Gardner. Well, that does it for our coverage here today at Talladega. Next week, we return to mile and a half racing when we go back to Texas Motor Speedway for the Dickies 500. But until then, here are your results, rookie points, chase points, and regular points heading into Texas. And this is Levi McIntyre signing off.